Oh, hello, everyone. Welcome back to
Hot Takes with God.
that's what it is. I'm Jackson,
I'm Alex.
and this is our second episode, or episode 1, part 2, depending on how you want to look at it.
Part 2.5.
Yeah, because we actually recorded this episode already, and someone we don't know who, we suspect each other, obviously, left the microphone on mute, so that whole thing went down the tubes. That's okay, because we're
It's
back.
alright, because we're back.
And it's gonna be super good from here on out. We've totally worked out the bugs. So yeah, second episode.
Second
Alex
episode,
will be
I
interviewing
guess
me.
let's get into it.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's.
So I guess, state your art. We'll start with the same place.
So I guess my degree is in photography and media art. But these days anyways, I feel like I do a lot more with like found objects and like sculpture. So I mean there's like obviously a photographic background and like way of thinking. But I haven't been like producing as much. Like that's like what I don't think that's what I would do a show about if I had a choice to do a show right now.
Yeah,
I don't think it'd be photos.
Mm-hmm.
So whatever that means.
Yeah, but you got your start in in photography.
But that's where it'll
the basis of your
that's where it'll
thought process.
Yeah.
I guess let's his cat is messing around. Whatever. You can't see the cat, but we can. She's precious.
She'll be fine.
She'll be fine. Anyway, I got distracted. So I guess let's start with the beginning. So you said that your parents always said that you were a photographer from a young age, and you said you don't quite remember, but do you have any of those like photos from when you were a kid? I'd love to see you harshly critique
my own
your
photos
own from a child. Yes, destroy yourself.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they got me like a toy camera or like a real like child camera. I've seen photos of myself with a camera. But I don't necessarily know. My mom would be the one to ask about that. Honestly, she's making like right now. She's making this. She's been doing it for like 2 years. So I say she's making it like she's like actively working on it. She's a busy woman, but but she's like got all these family photos and stuff that she's compiled and like sorted out and is like putting them into like books and stuff. So she would be the one. She's just like really deep in that right now. So I can ask her. Maybe we can have a podcast of that. I can scan them in and we can cut them into the video and yeah,
something like that. That'd be good. That'd be good fun. So let's talk about your parents. When you first decided that you were going to pursue photography, or I guess a life in art, more so than just photography, what were your parents' like first reaction? What was your first pitch?
I don't really remember like pitching it. Like I felt very like confident in myself, and I knew at that point that I could pretty much do whatever I wanted. And so they were definitely like wary or like nervous, I guess, at first. Like they just kind of, the classic like how is he gonna like make money and like support himself and that kind of thing. But I think not it didn't take very long for them to come around. I feel like I feel like even before I really started college, like they had kind of they were kind of like, I think they just kind of wanted me. They've always been big about me doing like what I love and like what I want to do. And I think that they knew, in their hearts or whatever, that I wasn't really cut out to like work in like an office or like, do something kind of mundane like that. That I wanted to, do something that I was interested in. And I had never really like before that I had thought about being like an architect. I think was my plan. Which I like really hate math, so like it like wasn't a great plan.
No. Yeah.
More like, I guess it was gonna be more like I was gonna design buildings.
Yeah.
Not so much
You're
like
gonna be conceptual.
Yeah.
More so than
Yeah,
structural.
I thought that would be cool. Which I still think that would be cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, then photo kind of grabbed me.
Yeah. For sure.
But yeah, no, I mean they were pretty. I mean, you definitely hear horror stories, right, about people's parents that like say if you're gonna like go do art, like you don't, you're not like you don't come home, like stuff like that, and like they definitely weren't ever like that. They were just kind of cautious, and wanted to make sure that I knew what I was getting myself into and stuff like that. But my mom's brother, my uncle, is a designer. That was what he did for his life. He was a professor for a little while of art, and he had his own like shop for a while, and now he kind of does stuff I think on commission like sometimes, but he's mostly retired. He just kind of like cooks and like hangs out and does stuff like that. But so like it wasn't the most like foreign concept to them, I guess, even at the time. And I had been doing it for like a year or at least in high school. So it wasn't like I had just been like, oh, I'm gonna like go do this thing now, that I just kind of like randomly split the second decided. Like they know that that's not who I am. Like I think about things really, and I'm very cautious about like making decisions. So I think like they trusted me, in the end of it. But at the beginning it was definitely a little bit like I never had like fight them on it or anything. But there was just a lot of like, are you sure? Like, what about like this? And
I think today I still get my mom will still make suggestions like, oh, you would be so good at this job. And I was like, that just kind of hurts, Mom.
Hurts, Mom. No, they're pretty chill to this day. I mean, even like I work in cannabis. I mean, it's it's still like legal and everything, but like they're like pretty chill about that as far as I know. Like, so
yeah. Do you feel like you have gotten any like big inspirations for any of your pieces from your parents?
From the way they raised me, yeah. But like from them specifically, not really. Like I wouldn't say that there's like a piece or a series or whatever that's like, this is about like my dad or like my mom. Like that's like not something that I would do, I don't think. Like even like saying that is like a weird like foreign concept.
Okay, yeah.
I just don't. I don't know. I don't make really like emotional work, like self-emotional work. Like it's not really about me. I guess it's like it's my opinions and my feelings about something, but it's not like self-referent. I don't know. It's weird. I just wouldn't do that. At least not right now. It's not. That just like feels like a weird thing to do.
No, I didn't think you had or did. I was just curious what the pondering would go to.
Yeah, no, but like definitely about like the way like, I mean, they made sure that I was like outside a lot and like we went camping a lot, and I learned a lot of things about like nature and like how to
Yeah.
like survive like in the woods and stuff. Um,
Yeah, it definitely seems, at least from my experience, that a lot of your art base stems from nature.
yeah, definitely. I mean, that was really like my first real like the first thing I ever really wanted to like take photos of.
Mm-hmm.
Was nature, like trees and hiking and stuff. That was just something that I did a lot. Um, and I always felt like so good when I was out there doing it, and like everything was like like elation. And I think that's why I really clicked into transcendentalism later on in college. Once I kind of like really discovered that, I'd heard about it in high school, but not really like in passing in the textbook or whatever. But I really like delved into it in college. But I think that's why I connected with it so much, is because I had been having those experiences all my life where like
Mm-hmm.
I had these, I don't like the only way to describe them is spiritual experiences like with nature, not necessarily like with like a god or a creator figure, just like the vastness and like depth of like age and whatever that the forest is. That was one of the first like things I really connected with.
Is the power bar top right?
No, that's where it says if we're recording or not.
Well, good. It seems like we are.
Yeah.
um, okay, so you started to get into, I guess with say it again, trans,
Transcendentalism.
yeah, I'm gonna fumble that word, so I'm not even gonna attempt it right now. Small speech impediment, it's fine.
It's fine.
um, so is that like, um, I guess the equivalent to a method, or I guess it's a school of thought more?
Transcendentalism is like
Explain that more to me, because
yeah,
I
it's
don't
like a
know it.
school of like not psychology, that's not the right word. Philosophy. It's like a philosophy. Um so it's like you've got like Emerson and like Thoreau and these guys that are like coming out of like the horrors of like war and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? From and this is in like the early 1900s, and they're like seeking like like spiritual something, but they've been really like disillusioned with like the church and stuff, so they're trying to get closer to God. Um, so the like nature kind of fucking goddamn it.
Uh,
Hold on, we're gonna have this issue apparently again where
it stops recording
it
after.
stops recording, but I think we're recording now.
It's so weird. You'd think there'd be like a setting where you could have it.
Right? I looked for one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I believe you. I'm sure you know that camera inside out. So.
I've had it for a really long time. Anyway, so yeah, so they're kind of just like seeking a closer, more intimate relationship with God, but they're not exactly thinking about God in the traditional like Christian Judeo sense, obviously, because they're out like in nature to commune with Him, but sort of like a universal, just sort of like creator energy being thing, but like yeah. So they're just like, but they're really just having these like experiences in nature where they're seeing these just like incredibly like gorgeous things, and like the only way that they can describe them is, and this is kind of like my take on it. The only way they can really describe them, and the only way that you can still describe a lot of these things, like I mean, like Yellowstone and the Rockies and like all these
Mm-hmm.
beautiful like landscapes that we have in this country, um, are these like spiritual experiences. I mean, they just fill you up with like awe and like make you just feel so small.
Oh yeah.
And yeah, so they're just having these experiences in nature, and sort of like the only way that they know how to like translate that is through this like idea of like spiritualism. So it kind of becomes this like alternative religious movement, and kind of it's all kind of like in response to the war, and all the violence. So
For sure. So you talked about the like they had their these spiritual awakenings and like a moment in the woods or out in nature and experience it. Can you speak to like I guess when was the first trip you can remember of you going out like in the woods with camera? Like this is after you've gotten into I'm assuming sometime in high school or like late high school, maybe early college or whenever, when you went out to one of these like gorgeous national parks and basically had that equivalent of that kind of spiritual esque of just like being with nature, communing with it, and attempting to capture it in its entirety. And
I mean, like, honestly, that's just kind of every time, really. I mean, that's like a big part of why I keep going back to a lot of these places that I've been to before, or like I keep going, I like seeking new places and stuff. Oh, the camera battery's about to die. All right, hold on. We're gonna have to do a weird cut.
That's fine. Great cuts. Little big butt. Give me a second to think, because I'm a goddamn improv, right? I don't want to repeat the questions I've already asked. So
yeah, fucking the first like not the same question. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, because I'm here to get the first reactions.
I like it. No, I like it.
But I asked some good ones last time, so now I'm like, all right. Gotta think about it. Okay, I know where I'm gonna go next.
What'd you just ask me?
I'm not sure, but I know where I'm going. So
fucking, I don't know where you're going. Maybe that'll tell me.
No, it won't.
Oh, God. I don't remember what you just said.
It was about
my experience in nature.
In nature.
Which one was the first time?
Yeah, which one was the first time? I guess I was trying to just look into just like your development.
Yeah, I think I know the answer to that.
Okay.
Make sure we're all.
And then that's gonna segue more into. Yeah.
Okay. Are we recording? Yeah, we're recording.
Hey, we're recording. We're back.
Okay. So first time
Does that need to be on for audio, or is it
what?
Gucci?
No.
We're Gucci.
I
hope so.
I would say probably. I mean, really, like I said, like, I mean, it's kind of like that every time. But if we're talking like, like mind blowers scale, I mean, it's got to be Africa. I went my sister, when I was in, my sophomore year of high school, went to Africa for 2 years, so my sophomore and junior year, and she taught at an American school there, which was really cool. And so that year, my sophomore year, that summer after my sophomore year, my mom and I went to Africa to see her in Kenya, Nairobi, in Kenya, and like did a bunch of cool stuff. Like went on safari and all that kind of stuff. Went to this place called Hell's Gate, like national park. Super fucking cool. We saw the place. We saw Pride Rock.
Oh really?
Yeah, that's like that's like a real place.
Yeah. Did it look like cool. From the movie?
I mean, like, it's like pretty exaggerated in the movie
Okay,
for
yeah.
sure, but like, it's you can be like, you're like, oh shit, like that, yeah, like that looks, I see it, like that's yeah. I think I did that.
Did you?
I think so. With
Gotta
like a
do the
rock or
version
something.
where you.
My mom probably has a photo of that. Yeah, there's like they put like tribal shit on us, and it
Mm-hmm.
was cool.
That's cool.
It was cool. But yeah, that's probably like I guess on Safari, there was probably one of the first times that I really like got my got my mind blown by like nature and like the land. I mean, like I had had like cool like I just it just makes me feel good to be outside and nature and stuff like that, and it's like beautiful. Like the lush greens, and then like right now in the fall you've got all these like beautiful like autumn colors. Um, but like yeah, I mean that was probably the first time that I
Damn,
saw
I
something
forgot.
that really like affected me.
For sure. I'm sure that would affect most sane people.
Yeah, yeah.
That would. I mean, going to Hell's Gate. Mm.
Right. Yeah, my mom has a sticker on her car that says, "I've been to Hell's Gate and back. Have you?"
Uh,
It's got like Nairobi, Kenya on it.
that's funny. That's
Um,
good.
yeah.
Okay, well, I'm gonna segue into my next. A w- Once upon a time for me, I was at a theater conference, and I had the pleasure of meeting this director, Sarah. I want to say her last name's Molly. I could be wrong on that, but her first name's Sarah, and she was an amazing director. Was lucky enough to spend a few days hanging out with her and a few other people, and we were talking one night about like emotional health and when you are at your lows. And she was saying whenever she's at her low, she pours all of that into her work. And I'm curious on your take on that and whether or not if if that is something you either consciously or subconsciously feel like you've done in the past. Like,
No.
no.
No, no. When I'm like feeling low, like I don't do shit, like art wise.
Mm.
Like I just can't. Like that's how you know that I'm feeling low. Like
When you're not.
because I don't
Yeah.
like, at least in my mind, I don't show it like super like all the time or whatever. I feel like I like maintain a pretty even disposure. Um, but like yeah, I mean that's how I just don't do it. And then like once I start producing work, there'll be like a week transition period where I like start forcing myself to do work and like work out and stuff like that
Mm-hmm.
again, and then I'll start feeling better. And then I'll ride that, you know, for as long as it lasts, and then like eventually you go back down again and stuff like that. But no, I just kind of like, and I don't go down and like I don't like let myself like wallow in it.
Mm-hmm.
It's more just like I'm like, okay, this just means that I need to take some time to take care of myself. Like that's what my body is telling me. So I like will try to get a get my meal plan back on track. Like that's usually one of the things that like ends up taking me down, is I'll like get off track like making food for myself
Mm-hmm.
and start like buying a bunch of food. And that just like makes me feel gross. And then I'm like feel guilty about spending money, and then that makes me feel gross, and then
Yeah. That just cycles down.
yeah, and that just like starts it all off, and then like yeah, so sometimes I'll just like be like, all right, look, I'm just gonna like take a couple of days, like watch some movies, not think about making art, and just kind of like get myself back on track, start drinking smoothies again, and then I'll get back on track. And sometimes it lasts a while, and
Mm.
sometimes it doesn't, and
Yeah.
yeah.
I was curious. I was curious.
But yeah, no, I definitely like the work is the high,
Mm-hmm.
like the ultimate high, um, for me anyway. So like, it just kind of like I can't like I can't really imagine. And like that's something that like they talk about sort of in school is like kind of finding ways to like restart yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like one, because like you're like yeah, like you're a human being, like you're gonna experience some lows, or like how to keep yourself going through the lows or like whatever. But I don't know, that's just never really been my strategy.
Yeah, I guess in theater it's. I mean, there's a lot of characters out there that are low, so you have to
Yeah.
you have to be able to get yourself into that low and then be able to maintain it
Right.
and ride it and still be healthy and still have. That's where the methods come in so useful, because if you actually have a solid method that you're able to go through a process of getting you physically ready, mentally ready, then you can basically like bring it up and turn it on and keep it on for rehearsals and for performances and for work that you mental work that you do, thought work, but then when it's time to kind of turn it off, you can. Yeah.
Yeah, and that like that's going back to like I don't really make work about my emotions,
Yeah.
so it's like just not like
So yeah.
yeah.
For sure. I was just curious. I was curious.
Yeah, no, that's a good question.
Let's see. Let's talk about your work now. What's something you're working on now, and how do you feel like that is? Do you feel like you're riding a wave from previous work, or do you believe you're starting, uh, that new wave?
I feel like I'm kind of starting on a new wave. Like, not that I've necessarily left the old stuff totally behind, but like, I've been trying for a really long time to like rekindle the old stuff, and it's just not really been sparking off, right? But I've started on some new stuff that's really like got me really feeling engaged, and like I'm interested. And I'm not exactly sure what all it's gonna be yet, but I'm really excited about it, and so I'm just kind of running with that. So like I've got a few things going. Like one, I've got these like old. I've got this huge fucking box of them, but they're these old like 35 millimeter slide films. They all came from the like UTC slide library that a couple of my friends helped to dismantle. So they kept a bunch of the slides and never really did anything with them and wanted to get rid of them, and I wanted them, so here we are. So I'm sorting through those, and I've got this old slide projector that I'm working on rebuilding and fixing and all that good stuff. So I'm just really interested. That's kind of like something that's like sort of similar to my old work. That's like really like going for that like nostalgic feel, that like like calm sort of peaceful like flashing of images that's just sort of like repetitive and like trance like, and kind of gets into like a lot of them are like a lot of the ones I'm doing that I'm saving right now are like in categories. Like, so I have a category of like landscapes. I have some that are like famous works of art from other artists throughout history and stuff like that. I have like architecture stuff, and so there's like portraits and stuff like that, so I can do a lot of different things, like mix them up a lot of different ways and sort of like try to create different like narratives and feels, and so I'm excited to like kind of experiment a little bit with that. I'm also working on, I've got some other found imagery projects that I'm kind of invested in. I bought this briefcase at that estate sale, that ended up having a bunch of like photos and documents and letters and like objects and badges and all kinds of personal items in it from this man, George T. Stanley, who I assume was the owner of the house that there was an estate sale at, who had died. And so I'm going through and like scanning all of his imagery and objects and stuff, and kind of after a fashion of this artist whose name still escapes me from the last time that we had this conversation and I brought her up. Um, but she did this piece or work, performance, whatever you want to call it, where she found an address book on the ground, copied it, returned it to its owner, and then used the copy to track down all the people inside of it. And she asked them questions about this man that the book belonged to, and formed a sort of like informal, non-traditional like portrait of him through everyone else's like opinions and what they had to say about him. So I'm kind of interested in that sort of like found like building of a portrait through like non-traditional means. So like using all these objects and like personal letters and correspondence to sort of paint a picture of who George Stanley was to the people who were in these photos and on signing these letters and stuff like that, to sort of to form my own picture of him. So that's pretty cool. I think, anyways.
Yeah, definitely seems. What format are you thinking of, like, showing it? Because I know you're scanning each individual. So
yeah.
What?
So I mean, it ideally. Oh my goodness gracious!
Did it again? I think it just did it.
Yeah. So ideally, I'll be looking at a couple different formats, really. So I'm scanning them because I want to make a book. So that'll just be, the scans. And then I'd like to do a show, like with the objects, sort of like, I don't know, maybe like hanging on the wall or from like fishing lines or something from the ceiling or something, so that it kind of forms like this sort of object interaction, which is another part of another something that kind of comes from some of my older work, like my thesis work and stuff, especially about like treating like non-traditional objects as like art objects, or treating like I guess traditional objects as art objects instead of what they traditionally are. So like my thesis was a lot about like plants and like the artistry of plants and like gardening and just like growth and like life and stuff like that, and like treating plants as art objects. So like just like you see as a Michelangelo sculpture, you can see this like tree that I've grown like in the same context, and like they can like exist on the same plane because they're of the same like quality of like beauty and complexity, represented in wildly different ways, of course. But like a tree that tall has taken so many 50 some odd years or whatever to grow that big, and has been like cared for and nurtured that entire time, whereas like yes, the Michelangelo is like in physical qualities harder to do, it takes more talent. It doesn't require the same amount of like time spent, so it's like just different. Like it's not necessarily that like one is greater than the other. And that's just like something that I'm really interested in when it comes to like plant life, especially being something that like sustains us, something we like literally couldn't live without at the current moment in time.
Pretty important.
So yeah, just kind of like a statement, I guess, more than anything, about like the importance, and how we should be treating nature.
Yeah, for sure. Do you have any like dream projects?
I mean, yeah, there are definitely some things that I'd like to do if like money wasn't an object. You know, I mean, creating like we've kind of talked about this before, like creating a residency program, like out in the fucking
Out in the
woods
woods, yeah.
somewhere, and like being like really like sustainable, and like a big part of it would be like having the residents like be a part of how things run,
Mm-hmm.
and like so they help with chores and stuff, and like get to know working and living on the land and stuff like that, as well as like having a space and time and freedom to do their art. So I think those things are valuable. So that would be, I mean, that's not so much of like an art project exactly, but like that would definitely
No,
be.
I mean, it's an art project, art of life.
Yeah, but I'm also, I mean, like, stuff like, I mean, there's like growing, like, basically like cutting out the fucking floor of the like, or building a false floor and like the like MoMA or something, and like growing a whole fucking like forest, like transplanting a whole like forest into there, and like bringing in like animals and shit like that, and, like bugs and birds and all that stuff, and like sound and projection. And I did a little bit of something with a friend of mine, David. Our junior year, we did the junior photo majors every year do their own show. In our year, we did it in the back of U-Haul trucks.
Mm-hmm.
So every like you could either like you could go in groups or you could get one by yourself. But you had as big of a U-Haul truck as you wanted to get, that you could get in the back of,
Mm-hmm.
and you had that space to put on a show, make it whatever you want. And so, I mean, this guy David shared a studio and a lot of similar interests when it came to art and like what we made art about and that kind of stuff. So we were both like really into nature. He's really big into climbing,
Mm-hmm.
that kind of stuff. And so we both were like really into like simulation and like being in nature and like what that does to you, and like seeing like the greens and stuff. So we like went out and got all this like dirt and like rocks and like branches and like moss and logs and like small boulders and all kinds of shit, and like filled the back of this U-Haul truck. We like put like spread the dirt all across the floor with like leaves and like branches, and put like boulders where people could sit and like logs and stuff, and then we like hung branches from like across the ceiling, like so they're made like a canopy.
Mm-hmm.
And like we like had two projectors going across on either like long side of the U-Haul truck, like projecting like scenes from where we'd collected this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we had like sounds going, and like we had like a mister, I think, like at one point. But yeah, it was really 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 cool, and it was just about like simulating the natural space. And we actually had someone come talk to us about like potentially like building out our idea and like fleshing it out into like a therapy space.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, we never really like followed up with that, which I think I just kind of forgot about it until just now.
Until just now, yeah, I've never heard of it.
Yeah, but but yeah, so that doing a big like real like no holds barred version of that,
would be
one of the coolest things. Either that or maybe like sort of the same idea, but like building out like a grow room that's growing like all kinds of different like drugs, anything from like weed to fucking like the cocaine plant, like mushrooms, all that stuff. And it's all like behind, like it's all like you can walk through it, but it's like behind glass, so you can't
get to
take it, because that wouldn't be kosher.
No. Some more. Where are all the shrooms gone?
Yeah,
guys.
Yeah, but
dicks.
But I think that would be really cool, and so it'd be up for like a month. or two, so that you can come once a week, once every 2 weeks or whatever, and like see the difference. So I think that there are quite a few ideas that I have that if money wasn't an option or money wasn't a problem, that I would do. So hopefully one of these days.
Hopefully this
people...
podcast.
Please subscribe. Speaking of which,
subscribe, like,
so that we
share,
can make money because we need money to do cool. If you want to come see this cool stuff that we're talking about, subscribe so that we can make.
Tell your grandparents about us, please.
Yeah,
they are our target audience.
Yes, especially if they're Christian.
Oh, please.
They'll just tell them the name, and they'll be super into it. They'll figure out eventually, but by then it'll be too late. They'll fall in love. Fallen in love with these handsome studs. Handsome faces.
Ugh, gorgeous.
Alright, what's next?
Have you ever been strongly influenced by a different art form? Like, has your art ever been directly influenced by another?
Oh, 100%. 100%. Yeah, everyone. Everything. Like, after I took, sculpture classes, I started thinking about photography and, 3 dimensions. In the round. Not as, a flat 2-dimensional thing. It was, I was more able to see and sense depth in a different way than I had before. And after I'd taken drawing and painting classes and figure drawing and stuff, the way that I photograph the body and portraits is totally changed because I understand the way that drawings of the face are made, and how you represent that in a 2-dimensional form. So 100%. Sorry, my cat is really trying to get this bird that's outside. She almost just fell off the window still doing it. Anyway, so for sure. I don't know if that's quite the answer you're looking for.
Every answer is the answer I'm looking for.
That's fair. That's fair. But I wouldn't. I don't know if it necessarily affects the way I do landscape photography. But photographing objects, and photographing people, has definitely been majorly influenced by sculpture and painting and drawing, for sure. Whereas more and architectural stuff also by sculpture, definitely just angles and stuff like that. Whereas landscape stuff mostly that comes from other photographers. So yes. In short answer.
Yes.
Yes. It other things influence me.
The obvious answer. Let's see. This is so hard. I'm making this hard on myself because we've
asking the same questions.
No, I'm not asking the same question. Oh, it did the thing.
Oh god, I think it just did it.
Yeah, it did. I saw it pop up. I have 2 years of improv classes, or 4 semesters, including.
Chilly? I'm chilly.
Are you chilly?
Are you not chilly?
No.
Maybe I'm just nervous.
Maybe, because I'm asking some tough questions.
You are. You're making me think about stuff.
Which is good, but I'm explaining why I'm making it hard on myself. Because I'm an improv man, and in improv you don't, you don't repeat. I don't know. I'm just being hard on myself by not asking the same question. The last interview, outstanding.
It was really good. Really good. I mean, this
now,
one is good. This one's good.
This one's good.
We're going off
I
the rails
guess
a little bit right now, but
yeah,
okay.
because I'm
having an internal debate, an internal war within.
I'm having a mince war within myself. I guess let's talk about who got you into photography. Let's talk about your high school theater teacher, or not theater. Let's talk about your high school theater teacher. How cool was he, bro?
I actually hated my high school theater teacher. She was kind of mean for like no reason. You know, she was a little uptight.
That bitch.
Yeah.
I
wasn't gonna say that.
That's why I said it, because I've never met her.
That's fair.
You can't.
That's fair.
Like, if you're taking me serious, you're silly. I've never met you. I'm
not. Yeah. What about her? Do you mean just talk about her?
To an extent.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, she was fucking dope. Like a super badass, like hard ass, but like in the cool way.
Mm-hmm.
At least like, I think that's like a cool thing. Like, a lot of people probably really didn't like her. The same way a lot of people have probably not liked a lot of other like professors that I've had that were kind of like hard asses. But like, I don't know. I always get that like. I feel like I can tell when you're being a hard ass for no reason, or when you're being a hard ass because you care. And she was definitely a hard ass because she cared. But she was just like super sarcastic and like snarky, which I really like jived with, obviously. And yeah, I mean, she was just like, whether or not she's like saw that I had talent in photography, or whether or not she just saw that I was determined to do it, whether or not I had the talent or not. She really just kind of like was the first person to really like give the like idea of going to school for art. Like she was really the one who gave like they had a whole presentation about like, so she had someone like a former student like come in who had gone to art school and like talk to us about like going to art school and like you should do it, like just kind of like about her experience and like if you should do it if like you feel like this about it, but if you don't feel like this about it, like it's probably not for you. Mm-hmm. Like it's pretty rough out there.
Vast majority of artists in all fields just kind of get purged off real quick after you graduate.
Yeah, it's rough. And even like in school, you know.
Oh yeah, I mean like still losing people.
Pretty crazy. So yeah, and so that really like, I think part of it was honestly just that it was kind of presented as this like challenging thing, and I was like, I like it. I really like a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So like yeah, like I've done everything else. Like I feel like I'm like, I got English down, I got history down, I got science down. Fuck math. Social sciences are cool. Like let's go kill this art thing. Like it's the only thing I'm really interested in. Mm-hmm. So like that, she just kind of like, and then from there it's just kind of like let me like run with it, you know. Like never really was like, are you sure about it? She was just like, she just kind of like treated me like an adult, like you know, which is what I wanted to be treated like, and let me just sort of like do my thing and like really encouraged it and like critiqued me like I was an adult, like I was in her master's program class, and stuff like that. And so like it was hard, but like I learned like a lot earlier than a lot of people, what it would be like to be in college and then to be like in the real world. Mm-hmm. So I think it just prepared me a lot better than a lot of people when it comes to that kind of thing. Like most of the time, like even in art classes, like you don't really get like, I mean, kids just don't really know how to critique. Like there's not a time to teach kids how to critique and then have them critique. Like,
no, I mean in my school, like a lot of the first quarter was spent just learning how to properly critique people.
Yeah, no, I mean it's an art in and of itself.
Yeah.
And it's just like, like a lot of it, like looking back, seems kind of sorry, seems kind of like self-explanatory, I guess.
Yeah, now it seems very natural. I just kind of go into it, but in the beginning it was.
But yeah, I mean, it's just hard to like. I mean, you just gotta like think about stuff in a way that you're like not necessarily used to thinking about stuff.
Yeah.
So it's it can be hard. But she just I mean, she taught me a lot of that stuff, and she was just really cool, and encouraging, and like, just kind of like a cool like aunt or something.
Yeah.
And like even into my first like couple years of college, like before I really had like established relationships with my professors, I would like email her like photos and stuff to get her to like help me like critique and stuff.
Yeah.
So I haven't spoken to her in a long time. She moved to Texas not long after I graduated high school. But yeah, I haven't spoken to her in a while. But yeah, she was definitely super important. I don't think without her, I don't think I would have done I don't know if I would have done photography. I don't know if I ever would have like thought about it.
No, it's so strange because I'm in the same boat with. I mean, John Lennon, my theater teacher. Like, if I didn't have him, if I didn't have the lessons I got from him, like I probably wouldn't still be doing it.
Yeah.
It's so weird because we've talked about this in the past where we kind of view like high school art teacher as a graveyard of artists.
Yeah.
It's where you go to like be put
It's
out.
It's gotta be a rough place. Like I definitely don't want to do that. Like.
But they're also you have to recognize that they're such an important like
crucial.
Yeah.
Crucial.
So crucial.
But yeah, I mean it's just like. Yeah, it's gotta be rough, right? I mean. Unless that's just like there are people in my program at school, like in the photography program, that like that's what they wanted to do.
Let's go teach.
Like that's what they were getting a degree for.
Yeah.
Was to go do that. And like power fucking to you, you know. But like I think I'd like to be a college professor.
Mm-hmm.
Not like right now. But like at some point in the like not too terribly distant future, you know, like maybe before I'm 30.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
Or like when I'm 30. But like that's like mostly because it's like a steady salary. They give you a studio, you can get tenure, and just like you just have like really regular income. Like. You also get to like help train new minds, which is cool. But like, there's a lot of really awesome perks outside of that.
Oh yeah, for being a college professor,
especially as an artist, like
yeah.
Yeah,
it's just a good setup.
Yeah, I mean it's a pretty good deal. Can't deny it. But yeah, so.
Well, I feel like I'm kind of scratching the bottom of my barrel.
Yeah, I feel like we've come
to a close. I guess I'll close it the same way I closed it last time. There's a lot of similarities between our arts and some of the stuff we were taught, even though the forms are completely different.
Yeah,
but
vastly different.
Being able to we didn't talk about the whole don't go with your first choice.
Oh, yeah.
Which is the whole thing, which is kind of a weird, like, I feel like most people wouldn't get that, or you don't immediately think that, but yeah,
right,
your first...
Because we were talking about with, like, testing and stuff, and, like, the way that, like... Because most people aren't artists, or aren't, even if they're creative, aren't taught to think creatively, so you're taught you're taught to think on instinct, which when it comes like tests and stuff, your first instinct is typically correct because somewhere in your brain you know that answer, and so it immediately is brought up to the front. Whereas creatively, oftentimes your first impulse, your first idea, your first iteration, whatever it may be, is oftentimes, while it might not be like, you don't necessarily have to like throw it out, but it almost can always be perfected upon and added
Yeah.
to. And that's just, yeah, that's something that I feel like a lot of people don't hear very often. That's a big thing, is learning to let go of your, I mean, you know, your work has got to be
fully
important
let
to
go of your
you,
work.
but like at the same time, you've got to be willing to endure letting it go. And you can't let it get to you too bad,
No.
or it'll cripple you.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, I mean, finding that balance,
Find that balance,
is
and
definitely key.
And also the similarity of learning to critique is such an important skill within the art world, just because we're all emotional little
And it's
little
like,
divas.
it's, at least for me, has been super important to like my own like life, like being able to like step back and look at things like critically. And be like,
And being able to communicate a point without it coming to conflict.
Yeah.
Like, that's huge. And that was big, and also being able to call out specific points. That's, I mean, huge. You can't be telling someone they did a bad job without actually saying this is
like why.
This is why. Yeah.
This is why I think that.
Yeah. And being able to justify yourself, and then yeah.
Definitely.
But a lot of similarities.
Cat. Oh
Very
my
cool.
God.
I feel like I've
Jesus.
learned at least some about your art form.
Yeah,
some
I
of
hope
your
after
processes.
2 interviews, I hope so.
After 2 interviews. Oh, Kitty. Oh, the screen did the thing again.
Okay. Well, we're done.
Well,
Anyways,
we're basically done.
Goodbye.
So that was Hot Takes with God.
That's Alex. You can't see me, so it doesn't matter. I'm pointing. I'm Jackson. It's been real.
It's been the realest.
But we'll see you next week for episode 3.
People hate that. The last little. I'm dreaming.